Welcome to the latest episode of Trojans Wired, the podcast, which is an in-house production of the website Trojans Wire. We are part of the College Wire Network. Back at you with USC women's basketball analyst CeCe Clay. It's our Big Ten offseason preview series. And so we've done 18 through 10. Now, an 18 school Big Ten conference, it still takes a little getting used to. This is a lot of content to take in. And because we've already covered the lower half of the Big Ten, 10 through 18. CeCe's going to quickly walk us through those 9 teams, and then we devote most of our show to teams 9 through 7, the teams that CeCe, in this early bird set of predictions. And, this is going to be fluid. It's going to change constantly. So, this is not meant to be some kind of gospel, that's kind of set in stone. This is just like the early sense of the roster fits, the coaching situations, the transitions, the stability, the retention, the production, all these things, just an early sense, giving you an early idea of the balance of power in Big Ten women's basketball. So CeCe, welcome back. And so let's just go through very quickly teams 18 through 10 as we then continue on toward teams 9 through 7.
Good morning, Matt. Nice to see you again, as always. And yeah, I'm excited, man. We're getting to 10 and below, or 9 and below. So I'm really excited about what everybody has to say about my rankings. But to start off, we're going to review 18 through 10. So 18, I had Purdue. 17, I had Wisconsin. 16, I had Rutgers. 15, I had Northwestern. 14, I had Penn State. And 13, I had Indiana, which you were surprised about. And 12, I had Minnesota. Oregon at number 11. And then last week, we finished it off with Nebraska at 10. Do you have any questions about those, Matt?
Well, we asked those questions. We explored those questions the past few weeks. I would only note for our audience that part of the 18 school Big Ten format means that at the conference tournament, the bottom 3 teams do not play in the conference tournament. Only 15 of the 18 teams get invited. So Purdue, Wisconsin, and Rutgers would be the 3 teams you're projecting to miss the 2026 Big Ten tournament. And the other note is that, I when we did our 14 through 10 episode, I asked specifically, is the 10th place team in the Big Ten a legitimate NCAA tournament bubble team? You said yes, so we put Nebraska on the bubble. So before we do 9 through 7, my question for you would be, okay, is 9, 8, 7, are we talking about bubble teams? Or especially as we get down to 8 and 7, are those expected to be solid NCAA tournament teams, or would you just put all 3 of these teams in the bubble category?
No, if you look at the tournament this past year, all 3 of these teams made it to the NCAA tournament. I mean, the top 10 teams really made it in, with one of them being a play-in team. So I would say that 9 through 1 should make the tournament this season. But you never know. You never know how it's going to play out, what the committee feels with mid-majors and so on and so forth. So we just have to wait and see what happens. But in my opinion, these teams will make it in.
All right, so without further ado, number 9. So the team that's going to be finishing right next to Nebraska in the middle of this 18-team Big Ten conference, CeCe.
Yeah, number 9, I got Iowa. So Iowa at number 9, they have a veteran team coming back with Hannah Sulke, Taylor McCabe, Taylor Strimlow, Kylie Furbach, and Ava Hayden. They also have 3 freshmen and 2 transfers coming in. So 5 new players. The returners that they have, none of them scored double digits in any game. So, and I want to note that with Iowa, when you look at Iowa's history, they haven't finished past 8, except for the Caitlin Clark years and Megan Gustafson. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Gustafson. Yeah. Other than that, they've always been 7 and below. So I do think Jan Jensen is doing something different over there now. Like, she's changing the style of play. They run a lot of 4 out, 1 in. They run a lot of pick and roll offensive schemes. But I just, they have some good transfers coming in. Emily Rodriguez from UCF, and a young lady by the name of Chasdy Wright, and she's a 5'4" point guard from Georgia Tech who played pretty well for Georgia Tech. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They have some freshmen coming in too that I'm really excited about. So it's just going to be interesting. But I don't see them. I don't see them because of all the new pieces that they have and the ones returning that didn't score in double digits. I just don't see them getting above 9.
Okay, now USC fans and women's college basketball fans will note that Iowa beat USC last season and took UCLA down to the final buzzer. So people will say, "Wow, that like Iowa was really competitive and tough to deal with." And so putting Iowa ninth, that might come across as a surprise. But as you know, Iowa has not finished in the top tier of the Big Ten in non-Caitlin Clark, non-Megan Gustafson seasons. So it's a really interesting program in that you see what the ceiling looks like when this team plays well, but maintaining that has been a problem. That has been a struggle. What do you think's the key for Iowa in trying in terms of generating more consistency over the course of the long seasons that you don't see these wild fluctuations in the level of play?
It's just their players. You know what I mean? I mean, they have to get some solid players and more Megans and more Caitlins into their program. I mean, they're bringing in freshmen, but the freshmen that they're bringing in, although they're ranked in the ESPN Hoop Girls rankings, they're not ranked above 20. So, they need to bring in some stars, and that's going to get them over the hump. But you never know. I mean, I've seen teams play, you know, with girls that aren't stars. So it's just a team philosophy on what they need to do. But I don't, I don't, I don't know. I don't know what this team is a question for me because I don't know what Jan Jensen, we've only seen her 1 year as a coach. So we don't know really if her philosophy is going to be the same because they don't have a Lucy Olsen. They don't have that go-to person like they've always had. They have Hannah Stokey, but they don't have the momentum like they had in the past with their guard play. So unless these transfers that they're getting, which are pretty good transfers, if they come in and show something, I just I just have to wait, and see what Jan Jensen's going to do to create a different hoopla about that team.
Now, Lucy Olson, pretty well established, high quality college basketball player. Like that was a significant portal pickup for Iowa, but obviously not able to lift Iowa back to anything close to the standard the program established under Caitlin Clark. Are you surprised that in the post Caitlin Clark era, Iowa hasn't been able to get these really big home run hitter we talk about aircraft carriers, the Paige Beckers, the elite number ones, who can just put on the cape and carry so much of the workload. Are you surprised Iowa hasn't been able to get another aircraft carrier after Caitlin Clark?
No, but you got to remember, Caitlin Clark is from Iowa. You know what I mean? That's why Iowa got Caitlin Clark. She wanted to stay home. Um, but Iowa is not a big media city. Iowa, it's a tough draw. It's in the Midwest, so it's a tough draw to get people to play there. So I'm not surprised. But then again, like I said, they can put together a good team with five reasonably good players, depending on what Jan Jensen wants to do with that offense. Now they did get better defensively last year, than they were before because Caitlin was a liability on defense. No disrespect to Caitlin, but it just is what it is. She was a liability on defense, and she still is, quite frankly, in the pros. But Iowa, they're just not that big name draw like a UConn or South Carolina or a UCLA or a USC. So, I mean, if I had my choice to pick Iowa or Florida or even a Georgia school going to Atlanta, Iowa's for Midwesterners. I'll put it like that.
All right. Next on your list, number eight. The eighth place team in the Big Ten, which means, very likely to be an NCAA tournament team this coming season.
I got Washington. Washington Huskies. I think that Washington even has a chance to finish above 8 next year. I think they could go 7 or 6, depending on how this team comes together. They have a veteran team. They have some good players with Savia Sellers and let me pull my notes down. Chloe Briggs and Hannah Steins is back, and then Devin Coppinger, who was their great freshman that they had last year that played really well. She's back. And then they're bringing in Avery Howell, and they're bringing in a young lady by the name of Bryn McCoutry, who's a freshman, a 6'3" freshman, and she's a McDonald's All-American. You know, she lives in Washington. So I think that this team is going to surprise a lot of people next year. They're going to be the surprise team of the Big Ten, in my opinion.
I really like your selection of Washington as a potential surprise team for this reason. In any sport, in a given season, a team might lose a ton of close games. And to a certain extent, one could say, well, the coaching might not have been as good or the players didn't rise up in specific moments. But, when you're always playing close games and you're losing quite a few of them, and you retain the same level of talent into next season, chances are that, like in terms of just the laws of averages, they're going to get better, not worse. Like you're not always going to be on the wrong side of these things. And the reverse is true. Like if you for like a baseball team that, is like 50 and 25 in one-run games one year, that's bound to then flip to negatively the next year. Like, those kinds of things, when you're always living close to the margins, they usually have a way of balancing out one way or the other. And I think that with Washington, that team has lost so many close games, not just
Yeah,
last season, but the past 2 seasons, and some of
yeah.
them USC too. Like they're bound to be on the right side of the margins this year. So I really like that call, CeCe.
Yeah, I think with Washington, the one thing about Washington is the way they play. They're so gritty. They like to get dirty. They're very physical. They like to slow you down offensively. And then when they're running their offense, they like to use up the entire clock. Teams don't like that. So adjusting when teams come in and they have to adjust to Washington's style of play, it's hard for them. And so I think that's why Washington sometimes has these really close games because they get down and dirty. You know what I mean? And they use all of the clock. I think that this is going to be Tina's best team, in my opinion. Every team that she's had, even at TCU, never finished above 8 in their respective conference. And it's the same thing with the Big Ten. She's been, it's the second year in the Big Ten, but even in the Pac-12, she didn't finish above 8 or 7. So now she has a team. The only piece that she's missing is Delia Daniels, who graduated. If she was back, I think they would be really good. But like I said, I think them bringing in this Bryn McCautry young lady is going to be really good for them because she's replacing Daniels. And then you bring in somebody like Avery Howell to play alongside, um, what's her name? Savia Sellers, the guard, the point guard for them that's really good. I just think that they're going to have a really good team because they have a lot of veterans that have played together. And then they're a good 3-point shooting team. I think they shot like 37% from three. So
Well, that leads me into my next question is that with my sense with Washington is that, that root canal style, and I mean that as a compliment. You've said they're a tough team to play. They make the game hard. That's a statement of admiration for what the Huskies do. My sense, though, CeCe, is that they haven't gotten enough clutch scoring. Crunch time scoring has been the issue for them. They withered down the stretch. How central do you think Avery Howe is as that key bucket getter, the key, the person who's going to make the big shot in the big moment? How do you view Avery Howe as like a 1 or a 2 in terms of primary offensive uh, producer, or do you see Avery Howe as more of kind of a role player mixed in with the whole Washington roster?
It depends the way they set Avery up because, again, this is just my opinion from watching Avery play. She's not an off the ball scorer, right? She can't take the ball off the bounce. She's not a dribble penetrator. She's strictly a catch and shoot. That's the way she's most effective. So if Washington can set her up, for catch and shoot position positioning, then she could be a one. But it's hard to make a catch and shoot three player their number one scoring option. What I will tell you is Devin, the freshman that they had last year, she's their other 3-point magician. I mean, she shot like 41% from three, I think it was. Yeah, 41% from three last year, and she was 91% from the free throw line. So you couple those two together with Sellers, or yeah, and then they have Chloe Briggs. So that one piece that they're missing is that big. Are they going to run a different offense? Are they going to go four out? What are they going to do? I don't know. But they're very methodical with their offense. So being able to set up Avery might be what they're going to do. But like I said, they got Devin on the other side now, and she's a 41% shooter. So they got a good squad. It's just putting it all together.
It will.
Sometimes I think, and sometimes I think when you have 3-point shooters like that, sorry, I didn't interrupt you. When you have a 3-point shooting team like that can be effective. Sometimes I think you're doing the team more damage than good when you slow it down and try and be methodical all the time. Sometimes it's good to get out on those transition and shoot a transition three. Set your player up on a transition three, and you can still do a catch and shoot. So sometimes I think being that methodical can hurt you with the type of players that they have now. So it's going to be interesting to see what she does.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's going to be really interesting to see if Washington asks Avery Howell to be more of a off the dribble, on the dribble threat. If they're going to really say, "Hey, you need to add this component to your game to fit in with us," or if they're just going to say, "Hey, do your thing, catch and shoot, 3 and D." The Avery Howell's role with Washington is going to be a very interesting plot point that, of course, a lot of USC fans will be following this coming season. All right, CeCe, let's move up to number 7. So an even more
I do want
solid.
right. I do
Go
want to
ahead.
mention one more thing about Washington though.
Sure.
Last year they were 9-9, so they finished in the bottom half. So I moved them up all the way to 8. I think they finished like 11th or 12th last year in the Big Ten. So I moved them all the way up to 8th with everybody that they have returning. So I'm interested to see if uh if that happens. If they can make that jump with the players that they have now.
Absolutely. All right, let's now move to number 7.
Number 7, I have Illinois. And so Illinois last year finished 6th or 7th last year in the Big Ten. So I have them in the same place. They have some solid returners. Um, and then they brought in Aaliyah Gayton, who was the sixth person who played the 6-person role at Iowa. So that's going to help them a lot. And then they brought in Destiny Jackson, a 5'6" guard freshman from Whitney Young. She was a 2025 Gatorade Player of the Year. The one thing about Illinois and why this fit works for them is because they are a guard-heavy offense. They run a lot of dribble penetration. I can't talk this morning. Dribble penetration, and they take you off the ball. And sometimes they do straight line dribbles and kick out. So they're very guard oriented offense. So bringing in a guard that's a Gatorade Player of the Year is going to be good for them.
What I'm interested in about Illinois is really something I'm interested in with all three of these teams, Iowa, Washington, and Illinois. Let's take them as a group, but I mean, you can focus on Illinois if you'd like to. In other words, you can take it either way. But of these three teams, and maybe Illinois, by virtue of being 7th ahead of Iowa and Washington, might fit this profile the best. But of these three teams, which one do you think has the chance to maybe finish in the top 4, get a double bye at the Big Ten tournament, maybe make a run at the Sweet 16, to be more than just a first weekend team at the NCAA tournament? Which team do you think of these three has the higher ceiling?
Why do you always put me on the spot like this, asking me these difficult questions?
You're the analyst. That's why we
Top
pay you the
four,
big bucks.
yeah, top four. Oof, I don't know. I would have to say again.
I mean, you like what
I have to go,
Washington could
yeah, I'm gonna have to
potentially
go with
bring to the
Washington.
table.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to go with Washington just because, I mean, I just think that you're gonna see the most growth out of this team. But like I said, I'm interested to see what Tina Langley does offensively with this team because I think, you know, her methodical way, maybe it's good, maybe like I said, it needs to change with the players that she have. I just don't believe in sometimes when you have different types of players, you try to fit them into a box because that's what you're used to. I think sometimes you have to look at the players that you have and then develop an offense around those players. So I'm just interested to see what she's going to do offensively next year.
Yeah, one reason I ask about ceilings, potential ceilings of teams is that, for any ranking in any sport, any team, doesn't matter. Like this, it doesn't have, it's hardly exclusive to women's basketball or basketball in general. Some teams seem to have a narrow range of possibilities. Like, they'll either be here or one spot above or one spot below. But other teams, you could see them finishing 4 or 5 spots above where they are or 4 or 5 spots below. And just for context here, when we did our 14 through 10 show, you identified Nebraska number 10, but like if it all works out, that could be like a seventh or even sixth place team. So I think fans are interested in getting a sense of, what are the high variance teams where you can see a really wide, expansive range of outcomes, and which are the teams where, yeah, they're finishing within one or two
Yeah,
of where you project them. So just trying to get a sense of that. Because, like, so Illinois might be that kind of steady Eddie team. They're going to be sixth, they're going to be seventh. Like, they're going to deliver on something, but Washington seems to be that high variance team where it could really work out and they shoot up, or it doesn't all come together and they struggle, or kind of in between and they land around eighth or ninth. So very interesting to get that particular perspective. Any other notes on these three teams that you studied? Iowa, Washington, Illinois. And this is just a really interesting conference because, like Iowa, we can see what this team is like when it's really good, but also a very low floor when it's not. Like Iowa got pancaked in a number of games this season. And last year, and I know we're not talking about this team specifically, but Ohio State got ambushed by Penn State, a result no one saw coming. So, like, there are these rankings, but yet these teams can show very different personalities, very different sides of themselves. That's one of the really striking things about your rankings list. Because, like, Indiana at 13, obviously there are going to be nights when Indiana plays really tough, but over 30 games, that those are two very different measurements, CeCe.
yeah. I think it's all about matchups too, and then, when you're the better team, the lesser team always has something to prove, right? So they're going to always play their hardest. Like example, the Iowa USC game. When it was played in, that game, you got to remember it was played in Iowa. They were doing the Caitlin Clark jersey retirement, so it was highs on every level for Iowa, and Iowa just did not. They weren't going to let Caitlin down. You know what I mean? And I think that USC during that game they didn't play very well. So on any given day, a not so good team can beat a really good team depending on the mental capacity that's going on in the minds of the players, the hype behind the players, you know, um, and who's ready to play. It's hard to be ready to play every game, but when you have that X on your back, you got to be ready to play every game because you can get upended at any time. But I tell you, I'm really interested to see what Washington does. Illinois, you're right, they're steady. Like I said, they're a very guard heavy team. They focus on their guard play. And so I'm interested to see how this freshman comes in and helps this team. So that's all I got for you today, 9 through 7.
Just on the matter of teams, getting up for one or two games and then not maintaining it. I know we're no longer doing our WNBA show, but like the Los Angeles Sparks beating the Indiana Fever twice in 2 weeks, while Indiana, without Caitlin Clark, hammers the Lynx in Minnesota. Like that is an example of teams getting up for some games and not for others. I mean,
Yeah.
that is just absolutely wild. But so like this is not limited to college women's basketball. This happens in the pros as well. It's fascinating how that dynamic recurs. All right, CC, so you have a lot going on, your Substack, your USC YouTube channel. Tell the people what you have going on right now.
Yeah, I am currently, oh, so first of all, on YouTube, if you guys haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, please go tune in and watch Truth in the Trenches podcast with myself and Cameo Williams. We talk about some stuff that other people don't want to talk about, that are afraid to talk about. It's uh it's a very good podcast. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it, so please tune in to watch that. And then I have a this our stuff with the Big Ten, and then I have USC's new player, Gerda. I'm not even going to try and pronounce her last name. I have a
Yeah,
film
I don't know.
breakdown. Yeah, I have
I
a
have to
film
study
breakdown
up.
on her. Yeah, film breakdown coming out for her on Wednesday. And then Friday, I have a podcast with the wonderful Courtney Jaco, assistant coach for USC. So that's going on my YouTube. And then I am in the process of building my website. It's going to be called USC Women's Basketball Media Hub. So that's coming. I've been working on that for the last 2 weeks. That should be up and running probably, I would say, within the next month, hopefully sooner. But I'm building it out all by myself, so that's a tedious project, and I want to make sure it's legit. So I'm working on that, and then Substack. I didn't do anything for Substack last week because I'm so focused on my website.
Yep.
But the one thing that I will tell you about my website is the website's going to house all that. So it's going to house, my blogs from Substack. It's gonna house all the podcasts. It's going to house all the film breakdowns. It's going to house stats for players and the team. It's just going to be an all-in-one place where you can go to get everything and merchandise. So, yeah, it's coming. I'm excited about it.
So we will obviously have a lot more on that, your new website when it launches. We'll definitely, I think, do a very large segment, if not a whole show, taking people through the different parts of the website so that they can navigate it. It becomes easy for them to see. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. We're really excited, CC, about what you're doing with your new website. It's going to be a great one-stop shop and resource for USC women's basketball fans. All right, any final notes before we close up here?
Just can't wait to see who's 6 through 4. So we're gonna break it down 6 through 4, and then the top three we'll do a major show on. But yeah, who's gonna be 6 through 4? And is SC going to drop this year? Who knows?
Who knows? That's going to be the drama. That's called a tease in the industry when we do our 6 through 4 show.
Where
CC
do I
Clay,
have USC?
CC Clay
As
knows
much
the
as I
tricks of the
love,
trade.
yes, as much as I love USC, will I have them at number 1? Who knows?
Stay tuned. A little summer drama here on the Trojans Wire podcast. So for CC Clay, this is Matt Zemek. Stay tuned for the next episode of our Big Ten preview series. We'll see you next time.
Right on.